So we're going to work on mixing a song delivered from an outside client. It's called Even the Sun. And I've not had any experience with this song other than sitting down to mix it. Of course, I heard a rough mix. I do not have the rough mix in the session. So we're going to start by balancing the tracks and kind of making a very rough preliminary mix for ourselves, because all I got this was the audio files. I didn't get a session. So in that case where maybe you're mixing something for someone and it's been done in a different DAW than you have, all you have is the raw tracks. This is basically where I'm starting. I do have my mixing architecture routing already kind of in place, but everything is bypassed. We'll go through it and I'll explain where things are routed, and we'll slowly turn things on and talk about the settings and explain it and dive deep on all that stuff. But right now, the first thing we're going to do is just balance the mix. So we're just basically listening to it from the top, and I'll be adjusting things. You'll see and hear, and if I think there's something I should stop and kind of talk about, I will along the way. Or if we make it all the way to the end, then I'll review and discuss at that point. So again, we are mixing a song called Even the Sun from a zero starting point, basically. So here we go. Let's listen, and I'm going to just start balancing stuff. I'm not going to be EQing or compressing or anything. What we're going to be hearing is the raw tracks through the routing I have going, but there's no processing going on the routing. It's basically a flat mix of just a flat balance of just not flat may be the wrong word, but it's just a balance of the raw tracks. So here we go from the top. Okay, so we're going to stop for a second. I just turned on some of the groups that I'd already made, not for the drums because, well, I don't want them on for the drums, but for the moment while I'm balancing the guitars, I do want to have things in groups so that I'm moving all of the channels for each part at the same time and just kind of keeping these balances. The drums... The first thing I did was I started balancing the drums because they were a little bit too ambient. The kick and the snare weren't forward enough feeling. It's just kind of some basic stuff. I know that's like this is basically how I'm going to balance a drum kit. I didn't pan the hi-hat because I have to listen to the overheads to figure out if this is drummer perspective or audience perspective. These are mono room mics. So for the moment, I'm going to leave them in the middle. I may pan them off to the side. I may turn stuff off. I may not even use this hi-hat track. There's a lot yet to see. I turned the snare bottom all the way down. This is not typically something that I would use to record with. I will listen to it because it's maybe a very important part of the way the drum kit was captured and it all fitting together. But generally for me, I don't like the relationship of these three elements: the kick drum and the snare drum, with the snare drum being mic'd from the top and the bottom, because unless you roll off all the low frequency in the snare bottom mic and you just focus it on the snare drum, you kind of get this weird phase stuff happening, because for these two microphones, for the snare top and the snare bottom to agree, and we're going to go, we'll go look at that in a second, because there's another point that I want to talk about, some other things I'm hearing, but I want to just balance what we have and get to the end. So we'll revisit this little conversation we'll expand on this snare top and snare bottom thing. So I just at the moment, the bass is not very clear to me. I think that the bass is going to need a little bit of work to cut through the mix. I got to kind of do a little bit of investigation and see what bass and low bass is all about. But I did turn down the low bass track just because it was so much hotter than just this bass track, which it may be a DI. I'm also not soloing things up. I'm not ready to do a deep dive. I just want to balance what this is, and just get a feel for the elements, where things are, pan a few things, and do that. And then we'll deep dive, and we'll get into the particulars of the individual elements and figure out some of the things I've already just touched on. But I'm just going to turn the guitars down overall because they were really loud by comparison. Let's see. Well, the vocal tracks are all the way up. The compression that I'm going to add, I know it's going to make it a lot louder. Just for the moment, they were feeling a little quiet to me. So just for the moment, we'll just turn them up. So we got all of these. Let's just do this. Let's just go ahead and, these are all background vocals. So let's just sort of, the same as guitars. I haven't heard any yet, but let's just blindly turn them down to start, because it's pretty typical that they're not as loud as the lead vocal. So, all right, let's get back to listening. We were in that first verse, so let's just drop ourselves right in the middle of that first verse and carry on.
You can be maternal when you wanna be, and she won't remember what you did. Baby, you're a woman and your friends are kids. Even if the sun goes down, even if the sun goes down, even if the sun goes down, even if the sun goes, and you get up and your heart's kinda hurt right now. And if you won't let the tears roll down, even if the sun goes down, even if the sun goes down. So you wake up with a sigh every day. Hours are forever at a job you hate, and I know you feel anonymous as you write another name on another cup. Didn't tell you I was dropping by when you saw me in the line where you nearly cried, trading breaks so you could hang with me. We held each other tight for the full 15. Even if the sun goes down, even if the sun goes down, even if the sun goes down, even if the sun goes, and you get out of your heart's kinda hurt right now. And if you won't let the
Okay, so basically for the elements that I see and hear thus far in the mix, it's balanced fine for me. It kind of feels like where we're headed, right? So, and I had, in that first chorus, I had turned up the double. There's also, if you just, you might have observed, but there are, let me expand these just a little bit. There are printed vocal effects, which is great. I'm happy that they did that. I think that's a cool thing. Even if it's just for a reference, if I decide that I'm going to redo them, I probably won't, because they probably did something that was cool, that's been a part of this the whole time. I'll probably try to incorporate them. I'm going to add some of my own, but it's kind of a cool thing to print effects and kind of build the the fabric of your production. And so I was kind of just balancing. I was balancing the double and its effect, I turned these down a little bit, but then they just sort of felt good at zero in relationship, like unity on the mix fader, or near it, I guess, if with the vocal turned up. So obviously all this stuff is going to need to be rebalanced once I really turn on the all the bussing and we start EQing and really putting things in their place. But this is like, hey, let's get familiar with this. Let's see how the parts work. Let's hear what we've got, and then get things balanced. Okay, so like I said, I felt like I was hearing all the main elements of this. They're pretty well balanced, and now the thing that I want to do is just have a look-see and what are some things that I didn't really hear that didn't stick out to me that are part of this recording. So there's these breath tracks, and I didn't really have a strong sense about them being there. So let's do this. Let's loop up the chorus and see what's going on with those.
Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes again.
Okay, it's just a little reverb. Probably want more of the effects balanced in. Just my intuition is telling me that the close mic, unaffected mic, I might use to put some of my own effects on. Maybe a little bit of dirt, because there's a lot of distortion in this with the bass and the guitars already. So it might be cool to sort of dirty this one up and add some of my own effects. But for now, we're just going to do these breathy reverb, the reverb elements of it, and make that louder. So just listening again.
Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes.
All right. Well, I said we were just going to balance stuff, but I'm just going to quickly do something, just because it doesn't sound like a close to a finished sound the way I want to hear it. So I'm just going to throw a little Sans amp on it and see if that sort of helps me feel like I can find the place for it to sit.
Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes again. Why your heart's gotta hurt right now? And if you won't let the tears roll out. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. So you wait. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes again. Why your heart's gotta hurt right now? And if you won't let the tears roll out. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. So you wait.
All right, that's a little better for me. Okay, so the other thing was there's some harmonies that come in the second and last chorus, and then there's some bridge harmonies. There's a little bit bigger of a stack, so I want to check those out and actually make this a loop, and we don't need it on quick punch.
Gotta hurt right now. And if you won't let the tears roll out, even the sun goes again. Why your heart's gotta hurt right now? And if you won't let the tears roll out. I know your heart's gotta hurt right now. And if you won't let the tears roll out, even the sun goes again. Why your heart's gotta hurt right now? And if you won't let the tears roll out, even the sun goes.
Well, I'm feeling like, let's just listen to what this Harmony Effects 1 is.
I know your heart's gotta hurt right now, and if you won't let the tears run now. I know your heart's gotta hurt right now, if you won't let the tears run now.
Just sounds like a little bit of crusty kind of reverb that's on them. I feel like that sound for me is not the way I want to do that. So for now, and I kind of like them being a little bit more forward feeling for the moment, anyways. So, anyways, these elements are not quite feeling like what I'm into. So I'm just not going to use those right now. But I'm not gonna completely fire them and throw them away. So let's just see what harmony gets added here.
It's alright to let yourself get mad. It's alright to give yourself a pass. You take a shot, then you shoot it right back. You take a shot, then you shoot it right back. Even
Okay, so on this higher harmony, I think that this reverb sounds kind of cool. I'll probably end up EQing it, but okay, so we've got everything balanced, right? We didn't get to the end of the song, but I think we all understand where this is headed. There's no new instrumentation, so so there you have it. Let's do something and listen to this tag just out and make sure to the outro and just make sure nothing's out of line.
And it's alright to let yourself feel sad. It's alright to let yourself be bad. You take a hit, then you hit it right back. You take a hit, then you hit it right back. And it's alright to let yourself get mad. It's alright to give yourself a pass. You take a shot, then you shoot it right back. You take a shot, then you shoot it right back. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes. And you can't find your heart's gotta hurt right now. And if you won't let your tears run out. Even the sun goes down. Even the sun goes down.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Okay, so let's check out the drums. I'm feeling like the drums are not as punchy as I would like them to be, and they feel a little opaque, I guess would be the word I might use. I feel like I'm going to struggle to get them to pop through, and they kind of feel like they're sitting in the speakers as opposed to popping out like some of the other elements. So what that tells me is we should check the phase relationships and the polarity in the drums kit. So let's just listen to the drums on their own. Okay. Good sounding drums. I mean, as a whole, I think it's well done. But I'm still feeling that thing. And if we go in here and look, and I'm looking at the kick drum because the kick drum is a good indicator, especially because of the low end that a kick. Obviously, kick drum is basically the foundation and bottom end of a drum kit. It's just a little bit easier to look at the sine waves and the sound that a kick drum is making, and also observe it across all the other tracks. So what we have here is this kick drum is the attack. The first energy is pulling the speaker. Now, some of you may have heard me talk about this before, but we always want energy, not always, excuse me, I shouldn't say that. We typically would like transient energy, acoustic, the recreation of sound from the speaker to the transient, the positive energy to be pushed, like for the speaker cones to push out, so that the speaker is creating the same acoustic energy and transfer of energy that if you were standing in front of the drum kit, the transient energy, the acoustic energy would, positive amplitude would be the first thing that would happen. It wouldn't go away from you. This is telling the speaker to move away. So, having a microphone capturing the sound the right way, and then documenting that as a recording, and then having the speaker, there's a transducer on the way in, which is a microphone, and the speaker is a transducer on the way out. You want them to reflect the same type of energy transfer. So that's why I'm using the kick drum to look at it. It's easier to look at with low frequencies, because if we were to look at the snare drum, let's look at, this is probably, let's find a hi-hat. Here's a hi-hat. There's nothing really going on at this particular moment. I mean, there's snare drum, kick drum, hi-hat. So what's going on here is that's just the hi-hat. That's a little bit harder to look at, because the high frequencies, there's so much more content. They move so much faster. It's much more difficult to try and discern with a visual aid what's going on here. Now, we can listen and we can do that. We'll listen and sort of figure it out, but that's why I'm using the kick drum. So here's some things I'm observing by looking at the kick drum. Okay, well, if you look at if you look at the toms, these are the tom tracks. What's going on here? Now, the tom is not being played. Let me be clear. This is the sound of the kick. This is the only thing that's happening in this particular moment in the drum performance. We just have a kick drum, okay? But all the microphones are picking it up. And when we go back to the tom mics, we see that the attack of the kick drum it's an agreement. The drum kit sounds pretty good to me, and I think the reason that it sounds as good as it does in the state that it is right now is because most of the microphones are in agreement with one another, and that's an important thing. So we've got the tom. So what I was going to say is, some really big things, some key elements in a drum kit capture like this is the overheads. They are kind of listening. They're the things other than the room mics, but in close proximity, sounding like punchy and focused. The overheads are typically the microphones. Typically, not always. Depends on where the microphones are placed or what sort of sound style of recording you're going for. They're the ones that are going to get the most overall picture, sound capture of the drum kit. So if I were to, I'm gonna correct the kick drum. Let's. I don't even know. I'm not really sure what EQ I'm going to put on this right now, at the moment. But for the time being, we're just going to put just a very clean surgical EQ, and I'm gonna play the drum kit. Actually, I'm gonna just get it down to just our overhead mics and our kick drum mic. It'll be a little bit easier to demonstrate. And so the plug-in is on the kick drum track, okay? And I'm going to play the drum kit, and I'm gonna correct the polarity of the drum kit so that this right here, it's not visually going to change, but by switching the polarity here with this plug-in, the sound is actually going to be doing the opposite. It's going to be pushing. So, but let's hear how that combines with the overhead, where right now these tracks are in agreement, and we're gonna correct the kick drum to what I believe it should be, but we're going to hear the change as it relates to the overheads. So we hear how all that wonderful, warm, wooden, punchy tone goes away. So now let's take it one step further. This is the kick drum corrected, and I'm going to highlight these tracks. right? And I'm going to drag this plug-in over because the polarity's flipped. It's got the phase reverses in. Now, I'm just going to take one more second here and explain. There is a difference when I say polarity, I'm referring to positive and negative. It is it's a 180 degree change. So the polarity, I'm using this phase switch, if you will, polarity. It switches the polarity. It does not. This is 180 degree. This changes it 180 degrees. It is not somewhere in between. It's not changing it. It's not changing it 5 degrees, 90 degrees, 135 degrees. It's making it opposite, not somewhere in between. A phase relationship is a phase is the kind of all the stuff in between. And that's why a phase relationship is important with microphones, because as you can see with the overheads, we're getting the attack of the kick drum very clearly here. But over time, when we get to this cycle of the kick drum and we look at what's going on with the overhead, well, the overhead is farther away from the kick drum than the kick drum microphone. And so it's also hearing some of the resonance of the other drums that are resonating. It's hearing the room. And so it's capturing different frequencies that are adding in. There's more color there, and so they don't even quite agree with each other, and that's because they're in two different places, and that's fine. That's the spatial information. That's the sound of the room and all that kind of stuff. And when we get into where these things do and don't agree, that's where you get phasing relationship. This is fine. This is fine that this is like this and not agreeing with the kick drum. That just means that's just some of the room information. That's some of the mid-tone that the room is giving us. That's okay. What we're trying to achieve here is the overall agreement. Okay, so a lot of words there, but let's listen to the drum, the kick drum and the overheads changed 180 degrees. So I'm gonna so that I can bypass them. Right now we have a change. So visually, what we're going to hear is visually, or how can I say this? What we're going to hear is the opposite of what we're seeing visually. So here we go. Hopefully you can hear how that's better. It just sounds like it's got better EQ on it, and I didn't really EQ it. It's just that it's pushing the speaker and it's presenting the sound, the recorded sound, back into acoustic energy. Even if you're wearing headphones, it will sound different. It's presenting the sound to your ear differently, and that phenomena of it being transferred correctly through the speaker as a transducer and it pushing the sound makes it sound correct. When it's pulling the speaker, pulling the headphones, it just sounds more mid-rangey because it's not designed to do that. That's not the way it's supposed to happen. We could go on and talk about this, but the main thing is I hope you really hear how that changes, and that's going to make my job so much easier to get these drums to stand up and stick out and be punchy and present in this mix. The other thing is, I will just also share this with you. When the polarity is like this and it's not correct, it's going to sound different. It's going to sound more different on different speakers than the corrected version of it, because that's just the way it is. I'll leave it at that. So let's listen to it one more time, and I will bypass them. And so right now, let's start with it bypassed. So this is as it's recorded. Now it can be a little, you can hear how everything gets a little more focused, the bottom end gets more present. It can be a little deceiving in that when things are not corrected in the way that I'm doing it, the mid range becomes very present, like where these two sounds, where the kick drum capture and the overheads, where they don't have as much stuff in common, which is in the mid range and the room tone, which is in the range of where our ears hear the easiest, 500 to a few thousand cycles. Because what's happening is the low end is being canceled and the high frequencies are being canceled. In a way, it sounds louder to our ear because all we're really hearing is that mid-range stuff. But it's kind of an auditory. It's like, what's the right way to say it? It's kind of a thing that's fooling us. We think because we switch it and it gets louder, we hear the mid-range more, that must be better. But if you pay close attention, you'll hear that the focus and the depth of things, you actually feel like you're listening more accurately to the dimension of the space. And you hear how the snare drum becomes more clear and more focused in the middle of the picture, and the kick drum sounds like it has a better EQ on it, and the low end comes back for us. So this is corrected, and then I'll switch it to the way it was recorded. Okay, so that's that whole spiel. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through all these microphones and figure out what needs to happen. I can't really tell quite now what's going on with the hat at this particular moment, because the hi-hat is also being played at the same time the kick drum is being hit. So it's very confusing to look at it. That's something I'm going to have to listen to. This mono kit, I guess is what this means. It should be corrected. It just visually looks like. Now, this room mic, which is farther away from the drum kit than any other microphone, that's why you see all this lag time. When the kick drum arrives at the microphone, look at that. It looks like it's doing the right thing. So I'm going to leave it alone. I never want to time correct that relationship. Personally, I don't like it because this is the sound of the room away from the drum kit. And if it's blended properly and things are in agreement in terms of the polarity and good phase, and it's EQ'd properly, well, then it will give it that dimension and that big room sound. As we go down the path here, though, you can see that the low end in the room, like right in here, the sustain and the voice of the kick drum as it sustains and dies in the room, you can see that these low frequencies over time are not in agreement. So by flipping this track, it will sound better with this track. Let's just do that. Let's bring that into what we're listening to, and we will bypass, and we'll hear. So we're listening to 5 tracks, and I'm going to and we're correcting 4 of them. So let's listen. Excuse me, I have to have all of these selected. Come on now. Play nice. All right, let's try this one more time. Listening. See how when I correct it, you can actually hear the depth and space of the room. When it's not corrected, everything just kind of sounds close and kind of mid-rangey and pokey. And also because of the dynamics of the recording and the performance, the speaker will behave more erratically with the dynamics if the polarity's wrong. This is just something I'm bringing to your attention. I think I've explained it pretty well, and this is something that you just kind of have to like dive deep on and figure out what your taste is. Hopefully, I've demonstrated and support my theory on it, but it's also, you know, make your own rules too. So I'm going to slowly kind of go through the rest of these tracks on this drum kit and get that stuff organized. And then I'll be able to balance the drum kit a little bit better. And then we'll go check out the drum kit's friend, the bass, and see what we find there.